Hello, hello, hello.
He is. And you guys didn't show up at the what can we guys do?
Hello, Nina. We're gonna try this. I don't know how audio is. Um,
Take it up close.
can you hear me okay?
You can see.
It's all the way up. Hey, I sure. I'm fixing this for you guys. I tried to get audio. It looks and sounds good. Yeah, for right now it does. But I don't know. Last night was not too good. Hello, Darlene. I'll be with you in a second. I gotta get another thing to put under here. Morning, guys. Morning. Told you I'd be right back. Good morning. So as soon as I get this together. So there will be new audio at some point, because when I do these events you need speakers, and I don't have the USB for the speakers. So in good speakers like that, to do that kind of stuff is like $200. I'll just save my pennies, guys. But thanks for stopping. You guys are gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna enjoy this.
Yeah, probably not in the middle. Let me ask him. Hi, Mama. I'll be right back. Yes. Yeah, so you can actually see that. It's right in the middle of the camera view.
Where does he want me to go?
It could be, you could, I think where you were yesterday is fine, but that's definitely not. We're right in the camera view. That.
That's what I thought.
I know, sorry. Yeah, it's right in the line of the view.
Here, well, hold this a second. Hold on, guys, I'm moving in. And then I'll put it down. Don't you bend down.
It's okay.
The,
I think where you were yesterday was fine. You weren't in the, you were good. Here.
sorry,
Oh,
guys.
you're giving them a headache.
I'm giving you guys a headache.
I'm not sitting here. I'm a hall.
Sorry. Sorry.
At least they're seeing a lot of Patriot stuff as you're giving the trip.
See, I wish I was close to my
I know. I don't know how. Well, you kind of are. There's a speaker right here.
I really want to do that. I said, if I knew that you were sleeping.
I mean, that's a speaker, so maybe that'll help.
maybe.
I can give you a quick test before I. Yeah, baby. You're good. Yes, absolutely. How are you making out? You see?
It's been a long weekend. Yeah.
see-
Big event Friday night. In Westchester, then we had something playing.
Yeah, I hear you. But you
I'm
know,
not letting it. Like I'm just
just
going and roll. It's like
go with the
robotics,
flow.
you know.
Go with
Okay.
the flow. The
Sorry,
movement
guys.
is helping the body.
I am.
That and keeping me,
I
you know.
can't
But
see.
you got to get the.
Sorry.
Once the oxygen. Once the
hi, Lola.
oxygen is back in your blood.
Yes.
That's going to make a big difference with your energy.
Once you do the, like, we were talking about the anesthesia and what it does to you.
Oh yeah, well, any operation removes a lot of
Well, I'm going to
oxygen
do this
out of your
chlorine
blood.
dioxide. That reoxygenates the body and gets rid of all the parasites. So that's like my next step.
And what do you do?
Chlorine dioxide, parasite cleanse.
So if the audio's not that great,
I'll send you all the info.
Okay, please.
It's a lot. You got to do it very tiny doses, but
Great.
but we're working on that
Listen,
too.
anything will help.
Right?
Because I want
I was at
God
every
made a
store
cure for everything
looking
that
for
I know.
a part
I
for
didn't want to do the surgery.
to do better audio
Every time they
this
kept
morning,
doing
and I
surgery
just
on
didn't
me,
get it. So
they would kick the shit out of me. People were like, oh, you're fine. You passed. You were 35, 6 months ago. You don't understand. Oxygen
Your whole
has to get
body
back in the
it's good to see everybody here
This is
too.
my 31st surgery. I'm only 44.
Yeah.
You know,
Right
so
back.
my
I
body's
gotta look
been in
my
a
iPad.
constant, like, state of.
Med beds. I know we
I
have
want
them
one so
already.
bad.
We
I
have
can't
them
wait to
already.
do that. Oh, I'm ready.
I just want to be a little tall. I want longer legs.
Let's go to a spa and we'll do the bed best
I
together.
think we need a good massage.
Oh,
From the head to the
I
toe.
can't lay on my stomach right now,
Yeah.
but as soon as I can, I'll join you.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm in. You don't think I speak twice with the song.
There you go. There you
My
go.
mom hates them. I'm like, I think she's crazy.
What?
She doesn't like people touching her. I'm like, you're out of your mind.
Listen,
I'm just like,
a nice buff guy.
no. No.
I'm down with that.
The tiny girls.
Oh yes.
They're strong.
Yes.
Their hands are like this
Oh,
big.
yes.
And those girls
Oh yes.
are like,
Yes.
the stronger the guy. I've had men do that. I'm like, give me a tiny little Asian lady instead.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like they,
Yes.
I don't know how they're
Well,
so strong.
because once they.
You know how you go to have your feet done, right? And you're like, well, we go to this nail place, and all of these things, I'm not.
This isn't Donald.
So one day we're walking past and he sees us. He was so excited.
Absolutely. Sorry, ladies. Give me
No,
one
go
second.
ahead. We're gonna.
So he says, I'm something why we're doing this week. So he got his certificate. Ever since then, he goes in that next week.
You see?
See that?
You see? Look at that. You have to just kind of like,
Yeah. He wasn't gonna do it.
It's not for girls, right?
And then when
It's
he saw that,
healthy.
he noticed it.
You had to see the big dude doing it, right? Well, if he could do it, I guess it's not so sissy. men. Like, they are totally different, they are totally species, you know? Amazing. Yeah, they are. A bunch of characters. I don't know. Is that a painting? Really? The top piece looks like it's a painting. The bottom is a photo, but the top looks like a... This said Ashley Babbitt is not dead. She's not dead. And I did read that almost right after this thing happened with her. And, but they're supposed to be pushing it about her being dead because they're going to want her as one of the, examples as what they did. You know what I'm saying? I think she's just like the SEAL Team 6. She's been a father and they couldn't get out. You're supposed to get over and you got up and some of them are. Yeah, you got up some of them are. Obama made a speech. He said, yes, we got there. He said, we knew Obama was probably not going to get voted in to get president. So they wanted him in, they wanted the population of Americans to be for him. So he announced,
Before you go, I've been running around.
See the good lane?
Yes, you're not going to have me back on the podcast. Yes,
he announced that
Baby, take it,
Osama bin
Ernie.
Laden, blah, 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 you know what I'm saying? Osama bin Laden has, we got it. So they were thrilled. They were thrilled. They were, oh, yeah, he's great, great president.
Thank you guys. I'll try to be loud.
Oh, is that a puppy?
Thank you. Wow. America in the dark no more. I think we're going to stand for justice for all. Is that correct? Just a pledge today? Yesterday we played the Justice for All anthem. It was the J6 anthem, singing the Star Spangled Banner while Donald Trump had the Pledge of Allegiance, and that's what I'm asking everybody to pledge allegiance to this amazing flag, our first flag here of victory. We know what our flag looks like now, and there's nothing like it. And personally, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I like to say, and James, justice for all. Have a seat, please. Everybody sit. I'm going to take just 2 seconds to thank everybody and thank God. They're giving us the ability, the First Lady and I, to build the America First Warehouse and share it. I honestly believe on my hands and knees that God is powering this place and that we are going to be the voice in the wilderness, the greatest prophet ever to walk the earth. was John the Baptist, a voice in the wilderness, and I'm inspired by that to let everybody know that this country is the greatest country on earth. One nation under God. I'm going to bring up a man that I've met on the corner of the DC Gulag many times, Chris Carter.
Hello.
Chris Carter.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be here.
I wanted to say, Chris, I was very impressed with you. One of the first times I went down to Freedom Corner, I got there early and I was able to put the van basically right there. We were interviewing, because I saw you doing it, and I knew of you in the industry. And I was standing there when somebody threw a rock. I mean, it was a big boulder out of the cemetery to the ground. Gary McBride was there. I think he remembers the
Protester.
Yeah, this anarchy princess or whatever she called herself down there.
She didn't make the movie.
Well, she didn't deserve to make the movie.
I figure everybody knows her already. We don't want to give her the stage for that, do we?
That's true. And she missed me with the rock completely. God protected me there. But this man has created something for all our eyes to see. It's the first that anybody has seen it, and I understand it's worldwide here out of the America First Wherehouse. And Chris Carter, this is your stage. We are proud to represent you and what you're going to be bringing. God bless
Thank you so much. Everybody here, I really just want to take the time to say thank you so much, and we're going to get into this. I'll make it really quick. This has been a historic event that has happened to all of us, and the world has seen this. What has happened over the last 4 years. The censorship and the J6ers. What you get when you censor the people in a country founded upon rebellion and they feel like they're not being heard manifests itself into an event like January 6th, right? Now, there's a lot of stories in here that you're not going to see because there's so much material. I had to really give, I'd have to say, a broad general version for the general public who doesn't know as in-depth as people in the audience here today know. Extensively what has happened, down to badge numbers of police and video clips. You'll see all of this. So I'm not going to stand up here. We always say in journalism, if you say it, show it. Yep. So right now, Mr. Director will roll the movie as soon as I walk off the stage. Thank you so much. And to the online audience, if you want to purchase the movie, it's at americainthedark.net. And let me know what you think. Please comment and please share. Thank you.
Yay. There we go.
And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the U.S. government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further.
This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward.
In the shadows of power, a hidden war rages, fought not with guns or bombs, but with information. In the quiet corridors of government, behind closed doors, and on screens that light up our lives, a new kind of control is taking root. The truth is no longer something we can trust, something we must fight to find. This is the story of a nation in crisis, a country that once prided itself on freedom and democracy, now teetering on the edge of an unseen abyss, a place where dissent is silenced, where voices are erased, and where the very foundations of liberty are being rewritten before our eyes. Big tech has aligned itself with the deep state, and they have a plan. A plan to shape reality, control what you see, and decide what you believe. In this digital age, the line between truth and manipulation has all but vanished, and those who dare challenge the narrative, they are erased, censored, forgotten. On January 6, 2021, the people rose, angry, disillusioned, demanding answers. They were branded as threats, insurgents, and terrorists. But what if the real threat isn't the people in the streets? What if the true insurgency lies within the very system that claims to protect us? What if the greatest danger to democracy is the one behind the curtain? January 6th actually began on January 5th. I was at a rally on Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C., and tons of people were there. This was basically a who's who of MAGA. It was a gathering to meet and to see what was going to happen the next day at the Capitol. And at the time, nobody really knew what was going to happen.
For those of you that stand for righteousness and stand for God and stand for this nation, you can never be
big time newsmakers like Alex Jones, Roger Stone, and many other people from the Trump administration gathered in the tent that night next to the rally. They called it the Jericho Rally. I was there speaking to people and reporting, listen to what some of the people were saying that night.
Tomorrow is a great day. We don't quietly take the election fraud. We don't quietly take the scam and believe their BS.
1 million Americans are going to come here.
I can tell you that there is no question whatsoever that he wanted a majority of the legal votes passed. When we started degrees out here, but your bill is like 1776. Everyone's going to look back and I hope they're damn proud of what they did during this very pivotal moment.
express my belief that America faces a choice between dark and light, between good and evil, between the godly and the godless. I'm entitled to have an apocalyptic Christian view of the fight we're in. That's my First Amendment right and my right to religion. I don't regret anything I said because it's anything inappropriate. I never urged anyone to hurt anyone else, any place, including at the Capitol on January 6th.
Jesus. And I really prove that God can do anything. And when I was targeted for a legal lynching just up the road in a Soviet show trial, and when a wicked judge wanted to send me to a COVID-19 infested prison because they did not want my video to reach the books because it was exposed that it corrupted. On the advice of Reverend Mark Burns and Pastor Mark Harvey and Reverend Brandon Graham, Reverend Brady Hopkins, and so many others, my own Monsignor Brady, back in Fort Lauderdale, I've turned this problem over to God. I've got right to God, I've confessed my sins, I pledged to walk in His way, and I can tell you, God will never desert you, God will never abandon His people, God will deliver you from your persecutors.
The mood at those rallies was uplifting, it was joyous, people were there to express their First Amendment rights. Every American has a First Amendment rights to question the anomalies and the irregularities in the 2020 election. I actually never had any doubt that the Senate was going to certify the election. I thought that would happen. That did happen.
It's all about tomorrow, up on that hill up there, where we have to make sure that they look into what has been the theft of this presidential election. God will fulfill His destiny and will reward the righteous.
It amazes me that so many of these Americans from all walks of life and socioeconomic status were meeting to save America. I know it sounds so cliche, but they are really needing to save America.
There's more and more evidence that this is a false flag operation, that this is an induced insurrection.
Many of these people would end up going to jail, and that's really where the deep state starts to reveal itself through lawfare. Guys that night that were speaking, like Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos, and many others would end up going to jail. Nobody really knew what was going to happen the next day. They knew it was going to be big, but the vibe, it was pretty celebratory. Some of these guys would take bad deals down the line, or some would be associated with others who have been under the spotlight for quite some time. I mean, I can tell you that we spoke about this so many times. The smartest thing I ever did that day was not good. The deep state can get you in jail and label you, that's the goal. That seems to be the desire more than anything we've seen. Look at what they've done to President Trump with all the cases and the impeachments and all these trials. So let's talk about the social media aspect of it. During that time, think about the privilege of J6. Parler was the free speech platform. This thing was exploding. Millions of people were communicating. So as January 6th was beginning, I can tell you right off the bat, Washington, D.C., my hometown, had a complete completely different vibe than I've experienced before. I've done a ton of events all over this town as a journalist. This was something different. The vibe was dark and cold, but there was also like this anger in the air. Where I was at the White House, the Lips, it looked completely different from what was going on down the street at the Capitol. The Secret Service was making people ditch everything before getting near Trump on the White House, the Lips. I mean, this was a crazy scene. People were leaving bags and purses and gear in huge piles, and nobody was touching it. You would never see that on a regular day in Washington, D.C. It was the first symbol that this was going to be a different event. There at the White House, we had no idea the security lapses that were going on down the street. We've all seen the videos. The Capitol was left wide open with a few small bike racks standing in between a few hundred officers and hundreds of thousands of Trump supporters. I'm there regularly. Should have been secured a lot faster and stronger. We've all seen what happened. That day has destroyed thousands of families and people that had no idea what they were getting into. There's so many questions around what happened. From people being in the crowd to FBI notice ahead of time. Either way you look at it, the Congress and the media dropped the ball in convincing the American public. Take the case of someone like Stuart Rhodes, the head of the Oath Keepers, who was not even at the Capitol on January 6th. I've actually interviewed him 3 times. He's had a lot to say to me, and he stands by what he says about the election. Mr. Rhodes, thank you so much for joining Real America's Voice. Tell me right off the bat, how do you feel on the government's case against you?
Well, now, as I said, Mr. Trump, case is very much like you can see from some as it should have.
And tell me, how do you think about these J6 defendants taking these plea deals?
I think it's unfortunate that what happens when you're denied bond and not released prior to trial. I think that also. So if they want you to go scared of what they have other choices to do now. This was happening to a lot of these people. And they need other criminal defense attorneys as well. They can be Republicans who can step up, or Trump himself can step up and fund their defense issue with after defense.
What motivated you to be in Washington, D.C. on January 6th?
One of the histories we got acquired, South Rally, the River Center Ranking, where there was a same attack drill. We protect people against an anti-law. That's why we were there.
And tell me, how do you feel about this current Congress?
We're in the situation we're in. It's not only was there a lot of fraud in the election, also the election in 2020 as a bill level was actually unconstitutional. And that's something that's not been set up. It's like the litigant overturn post for Texas. But Article 174, so the time, place, and manner of the elections, et cetera, it was a shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law either call for such regulations. That means that federal law and state law for elections must be followed, and yet every one of the state laws is set aside, and federal election law is also set aside to deal with COVID. And if they did something else entirely different, like that, it was beyond, that's unconstitutional. So you have a sitting Congress that's a different budget, unfortunately.
What do you think the role Nancy Pelosi played in January 6th was?
Oh, depending on,
All right, Mr. Rhodes, thank you so much for joining Real America's Voice. We're going to continue to monitor your story.
apparently I'm not supposed to be running that years ago.
That was Stuart Rhodes, the founder of the Oath Keepers. We'll continue to monitor this developing story as these January 6 defendants now go to trial. Stuart Rhodes will get convicted of seditious conspiracy to overthrow the U.S. government. He told me in jail in Alexandria, Virginia, that he doesn't ever plan on getting out unless a conservative president gets elected and pardons him. We all know that's Trump. You also take a look at how some of the key players in this historic event, they gained wealth and notoriety after January 6th. There's a few individuals, one that immediately comes to mind. Mike Fedone was pulled out of the tunnel, and there are a lot of different accounts
of his story. Listen to what Gary McBride from Texas has to say about this.
With what the J6 committee showed with his videos, they stopped the video right before he opens his eyes. When he's being drugged in the hallway and looks around. They talk about he had 2 heart attacks. Talk about how he walked on his partner, Jimmy Albright, his PEC partner, out there throwing up. None of that shit. None of that shit. We're talking about scratches on his neck. Did he get shocked on the neck? Yeah, but it wasn't directly on the neck. It was on the protective vest. He's going to feel a little bit of that, but it's not like in times of how he was kicked in the head, the way he was kicked in the head, that crowd was close to everybody was. He never fell on his back. But you don't see that because they're not showing it.
There's all this violent footage that day in the tunnel, but if you listen to what Philip Anderson has to say about it.
Even when Roseanne Boylan was lying there dead, the police officers beating down on her, okay? And then they come up here and they say, well, it's because she had to go over it. So you literally crushed her to death, and then you beat her after she was dead. And if Jake Lane hadn't pulled me out, I would be dead too. So when they can kill someone, lie about the way that they were killed, lie about the cause of death, and cover up everything. They won't say the names of the police officers. We know the name of the police officer that beat Roseanne Boylan when she was dead. We know the name of the police officers that did lots of bad things. But it's just disgusting that Nancy Pelosi had a select committee without showing the footage. If she shows the full footage that we've been asking for, it will show that the police did wrong. It will show what happened in that tunnel was a death trap. I would not be alive. They would have killed me. And the fact that the audacity to call Jake Lane and these other people white supremacists and racists when they saved my life, there's no limit to how filthy and evil these people are.
Phil Anderson almost died that day in the tunnel. He was passed out, and you could see him right there being dragged out. It's really amazing that he lived. When you take a look at what the January 6th committee has done, it seems it's made things worse because partisanship is taking a center stage. I mean, what the American public has had to endure is a tremendous amount of wasted bandwidth. Nobody feels better about anything. This is where the term news watching comes into play because of the way certain networks went wall to wall with this testimony and how they covered that was questionable, to say the least. The investigation was incomplete. That's probably the understatement of the century. Take, for instance, the case of Ashley Babbitt, who was shot inside the Capitol that day on January 6th. The officer, Lieutenant Michael Boyd, says he shot Ashley as a last resort. Witnessing the glass was broken, you can see he tightened his grip on the pistol and pulled the trigger from point blank range. It's been a difficult journey for Nikki. Nikki Woodhoff has spoken about how this has changed her life. She become kind of after a spokesperson. How's her life changed?
And the art's quite a difference, and I suppose this change that we imagine, things I used to believe features don't do that anymore. It wasn't blissful existence until actually it's murder, and everything has changed. I not only get out of the body, but I believe in the goodness and safety.
Some others have taken to the cause in a different way. Every night at the DC jail, supporters gather to listen to inmates call from inside as they hold a musical religious ceremony for like over 2 years now.
Who's responsible for the murder of Ashley Babbitt? Where does it say that a police officer is excused from first-degree murder because of trespassing? The woman was not armed and she was not a danger to anyone. Under any other circumstance, that officer would be prosecuted. But this is a unique situation. Nancy Pelosi is responsible for the death of Ashley Babbitt.
The deep state has pushed these people into a war they never knew they were going to get into. Right? Who's next?
Another person that's a figurehead in all this was Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the infamous Proud Boys. We've always seen the videos of the Proud Boys during the events leading up to January 6th, and then as well as during January 6th. He was arrested for carrying ammunition magazines when he got off a plane at here at National Airport in Virginia. So let me ask you, how do you get those on a plane?
Yeah.
The answer is you don't.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. They were planned. There have been so many deep state plays to undermine the will of the American people. When will it ever seriously end? Most people have no idea what happened to Alex Jones and Roger Stone the morning of January 6th at the Willard Hotel.
After the president spoke, the Secret Service called my hotel room and asked me if I wanted an escort to the Capitol. I never had any plans to go to the Capitol. I never went to the ellipse. I never went to the Capitol. I was inside the entire time. I do know that around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, one of my friends was flying private out of Dallas and offered me a ride, and I took it. Therefore, when the police arrived in my room at 5 o'clock, looking for me, for what reason I cannot imagine, I was gone. Well, I declined to be escorted up to the Capitol. Had I agreed, I would have arrived almost the exact time that people were breaking in. That's an estimate on my time, looking at the time sequence. In the case of Alex Jones, my understanding, he had the same offer, as did Ali Alexander. They accepted the Secret Service offer to escort them to the Capitol, but because Jones stopped in the men's room, the timing was off, and they actually got there, I believe, after people had already broken in.
So the Secret Service shows up to apparently offer them an escort to the Capitol to make sure they were safe. Now, anybody who knows how Washington works knows this isn't the way it works. And what happened was kind of interesting because I guess taking a little bit longer in the hotel than originally planned, he arrived at the Capitol and they inserted him right into the crowd, and then the Secret Service detail just disappeared. Everybody's seen the footage and knows the Capitol Hill police were not ready. They left many crucial spots open and had no backup from the National Guard. You know, it's not like they didn't have months of warning since November even that something huge was going to happen. I mean, every MAGA rally was massive. Look at the security usually around the Capitol and the perimeter of the grounds, you know, and how it usually looks. It usually looks pretty fortified when something big is about to happen. And, you know, people know the deep state allowed it to happen. Pelosi said herself when she was shooting her documentary on January 6th with her daughter that they should have been ready. They were in the SUV with their 10 security guards.
It's okay with the daughter. Nancy Pelosi was responsible for not taking advantage of 10,000 soldiers or 1,000. You wouldn't be, you're pretty in small 100. It was a relatively small crowd. It wasn't a crowd that was in the mall, it was a small crowd.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. Why was the National Guard there to begin with? That's an exact question I'm calling it. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them not to prepare for war. Because it's stupid that we should be in a situation like this. But they thought they had what? They thought these people would act civilized? They thought these people gave a damn?
Then lawmakers have claimed that evidence now has been deleted. I mean, can you believe this? This is where we are.
Somebody hosted a rally to protest the treatment of the January 6th detainees, and they used that as an excuse to put the fence back up. And then lo and behold, the only people who show up are government informants, the people working for the government. So I guess they were trying to set a second trial.
See somebody, the member of the media, be kind and respectful. They may ask you if you'd like to be interviewed. Now, if you're not used to this, I would recommend that you don't. Because we've got a lot of misrepresentation. They're trying to say that this is a rally in support of the violent people who
attacked and killed police officers on January 6th, but that is absolutely not what this is about.
These poor bastards who are being imprisoned now in solitary confinement, given an hour a week without the ability to see their wives. One man has cancer and isn't able to get the proper care. They certainly do not deserve that.
Innocent Americans are being tortured in our country who access the Taliban, who treated more respectfully than our prisoners. And I'm not just saying again, January 6th, every prisoner in there.
We also President Trump's speech, nowhere to be inside any kind of violence. This was just a MAGA march for making America great. Patriotism is someone standing up for the country, saying any patriot standing up for this country, and anybody that was arrested on that day, they're being charged for insurrection, and all this other stuff. I think that it's very unfortunate that the world doesn't understand how there was a setup.
We're out there to demonstrate against the continued incarceration of the guys of January 6th. They should be prosecuted and pay for their crimes, but they shouldn't be in jail.
There was undercover Antifa that originally stormed the Capitol. Antifa, the Capitol Police were involved in that and helping them to walk in the buildings. They were staff. They all have been staff. And I think it's their video setup. And now they are not being allowed to participate. So not saying yes, can I speak? I know that if they continue to come and make their way with it, they're coming to for their Patriots have no idea that that was going to happen, so they called on a myth. But they didn't instigate violence on police officers, like all the media coverage that's saying that they hurt, Capitol Police or whatever. That's not what we do. That's not what we have going under our business.
Do not let our political leaders know that if they do not do something about this, then
So those are people
they will not be in office.
illegally.
We're just here to stand up for America and get the truth out the way, Joe Biden is ruled by China and how the election was stolen. And that's why I'm here. I'm a proud patriot. I serve my country. And I just want to be here to support the rest of Americans that are patriots that believe in our cause.
How do you judge that something that's going wrong to people, that happens wrong to people?
We just want our country back, and that's what we're fighting for. And we're trying to do it in a non-violent manner. Anybody that's instigating violence, I was here on November 21st when we had a maker rally, and I witnessed that team doing domestic terrorism because people that were sitting down having dinner at restaurants around here, they waited for the sun to go down and started attacking people.
All the footage the American public was demanding to see, much of it has been deleted. We've seen certain journalists cover this adequately, but not many. I think certain people in Washington are afraid to touch us. That day on the ellipse was unique in the aspect that many of the people were from all over the country and, from different backgrounds. I saw no media authorizer other than myself. Listen to what some of these people were saying.
When I look back, I hope that we're not going to be afraid to call this what it is, which is a criminal offense against our country. We're talking about the Democratic Party allowing possibly CCP to use an election to take the most productive country, its people, its military, just like that. I don't think so. You're not going to come to this country. This is not going to go down. So that's why I'm here.
I look back on this and historic events. I'm a soldier from Vietnam, lived over a year in the Delta of Vietnam. I fought for this nation. I've led for this nation. And many, my friends already died, fought and died for this nation. I'm very, very proud of the big people here during this historic event. Very proud of them.
In an era where information flows instantly and globally, the power control what is seen and heard has never been greater. Social media platforms have become the battleground for debates on freedom and censorship.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
As our world becomes more interconnected, social media platforms hold unprecedented influence over public discourse. But with this power comes the responsibility and the challenge of managing free speech and combating misinformation. Censorship happens now at a global level. The concept of digital censorship is not new, but its scope and scale have evolved dramatically. From algorithm-driven content moderation to outright bans, the ways in which platforms manage content are shaping our digital experience. Censorship on social media isn't always black and white. While some argue it's necessary to prevent harm, others see it as a dangerous encroachment on free speech. The line between protecting users and restricting expression is increasingly blurred. Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter represents a significant shift in the social media landscape. His promises of increased transparency and reduced censorship have sparked both optimism and skepticism among users and critics alike. Musk's vision for Twitter includes sweeping changes to content moderation and its policies of censorship and banning. While some hail these changes as a return to free speech, others worry about the potential for increased misinformation and censorship on a global level.
The legacy media wrote non-stop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact-checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they created, especially in the U.S.
The debate over conservative censorship on social media platforms reflects broader tensions about political bias and freedom of expression. Accusations of unfair treatment and algorithmic bias have fueled a heated discussion about the role of technology in shaping political discourse.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. And will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations.
This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech.
For many conservatives, social media censorship, it feels like a direct threat to their ability to participate in the public debate. But determining whether these claims reflect systemic bias or necessary content moderation is an ongoing and contentious issue, to say the least. The global impact of this cannot be understated. Social media censorship is not just a national issue. Different countries grapple with how to regulate digital spaces while respecting cultural and legal differences. The consequences of these regulations are felt worldwide. In authoritarian regimes, social media censorship often extends to suppressing dissent and controlling the narrative. In democratic societies, the challenge is finding a balance that protects free speech while addressing harmful content. The evolving landscape of social media and censorship underscores a critical challenge for our time. How do we safeguard free speech while preventing harm in a digital world? The decisions made today shape the future of global communication. As we navigate this digital frontier, it's essential to remain vigilant and engaged. The quest for a fair and open internet is ongoing, and every voice matters in this critical conversation. People are looking at censorship and free speech all the time now. In an area of digital communication, social media platforms hold unparalleled power over public discourse. But as we navigate censorship and influence, What are the real implications for free speech in democracy? Social media has transformed how we connect, but its control over what we see and say is increasingly under scrutiny. Elon Musk's $44 billion acquisition of Twitter promised a new era of transparency and free speech. But as Musk implements changes, questions remain about whether these platforms will balance openness with the need for responsibility to manage this content. Musk's takeover has redefined the conversation around free speech online. But will this vision enhance or undermine the platform's role in managing harmful content? What is harmful content? Some people find it harmful, some people don't. Now, on to Facebook. The Facebook scandal exposed how Facebook was bending to demands from the Biden administration, and it highlights the importance between free speech and government control. Mark Zuckerberg finally admitted to this, and skeptics have long criticized Facebook's involvement in the 2020 election, banning certain opposing viewpoints of the organization, squashing COVID-19 theories, suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story. All these things happened. Now, following the January 6th Capitol riot, Twitter and Facebook banned President Donald Trump, citing risks of further incitement. This unprecedented action sparked a fierce debate about the role of social media in political discourse. Let's not forget about the evisceration of the platform Parler. The ban of Donald Trump from major social media platforms marked a pivotal moment, raising questions about the limit of free speech and the power of these tech giants. Facebook's role in influencing the 2020 election was unprecedented. Recent revelations confirm that Facebook worked closely with the White House during the 2020 election and has acknowledged its role in doing so. They were moderating content, influencing political discourse, all the things that conservative journalists have been reporting about. Facebook's admission of collaboration with the White House during the 2020 election underscores the complex interplay between social media and political influence. Now to the bigger story, the Hunter Biden laptop story, once suppressed by major social media platforms, has now been verified. This raises important questions about how platforms handle sensitive political information. To say that this was highly sensitive was an understatement of the decade. Governments are increasingly partnering with tech companies to manage online content, leading to concerns about overreach and erosion of privacy. Collaboration between governments and tech giants has sparked this massive debate over the balance between combating misinformation and censorship and letting the people speak freely. Accusations of conservative censorship on social media have fueled controversy, with claims of bias against right-leaning viewpoints and debates about platform fairness. The debate over conservative censorship highlights the challenges of content moderation and also raises big questions about fairness and bias in social media policies. The global impact of social media censorship cannot be understated. The choices made today will shape the future of digital communication. The future of social media will depend on how we address these critical issues of free speech and censorship.
Tomorrow is the 4-year anniversary of January 6th. What will the Capitol look like on the anniversary of this historic event? What level will the security be? I think about that night, January 5th, and all the people that were here. So much has happened to the J6 defendants because of the deep state. Nobody thought when this historic event began that it would have escalated to where it is today. The Congress hasn't satisfied the public's demand for an explanation of what went down, starting with what happened here January 5th, into what happened down the street the next day, January 6th. President Trump has campaigned on pardoning the January 6ers. These January 6ers have filed a lawsuit against the federal government, and they're holding a press conference tomorrow in Washington. It all began right here at Freedom Plaza on January 5th, 2021. What took place here that evening would then escalate into the historic event the next day. The deep state had plans. that will change people's lives forever. So I took a lap around the Capitol here on the anniversary of January 6th. There's a secure perimeter, police presence, 500 National Guard on standby. It makes you wonder why weren't they here that day at the Capitol when they were needed the most, when they had weeks of notice, when they knew that all the supporters of the former president were going to be coming here 4 years later. Here we are. And down the street here, we actually got the J6 defendants holding a press conference. This is a pardon press conference. At this point, I think it's some 1,500 active cases. Nobody would have thought 4 years later this is where we would be with Trump taking the oath of office on January 20th. Some people are outraged, some people are ecstatic, but either way, you can feel the shift in the country. I can tell you right now, just being out here with the media and taking a look at different police presence, my life would have been considerably different that day if I had just walked past those steps and up onto the Capitol grounds.
My name's Troy South. I've been fighting with the January 6th defendants now for 4 years since I was one. I was a person in the building, I was a person seen on a megaphone, clearly helping the Capitol Police clear the building. Clearly advocating for a peaceful, broad protest and demonstration. We were not only protesting, we were also in support of many of the people that were in that building that day in their legislative capacity. 147 members of Congress and Senate have agreed to step in and have something to say about this process. And all we were asking for, not to have the election overturned, we were asking for a meaningful review. We had a meaningful review that he chats in West Palm Beach. We had meaningful reviews of elections throughout history. And that's all we wanted. We didn't want the election overturned and Donald Trump came to the presidency. We wanted to be sure that the legal, lawful votes and the intent of the voters was passed, not to subvert what we wanted, but to have the actual process be as it was intended by the will of the voters. You know, personally, I've had Las Vegas grenades and seen all this show up at my house. I've seen my son at gunpoint, my 13-year-old son, trying to go out the door to school. And that day, that changed me forever. That day, it wasn't being at the Capitol that changed me. It wasn't the stolen election. What changed me, what created this, when they look at me and wonder, how does this guy end up like this? They created me so that I could think of me as radical. So I have radical speech of the idea that I believe in freedom, liberty, the Constitution, the will of the voter, etc. That's not radical. That's consistent with American ideology. You put my 13-year-old son at gunpoint. I look out my door to see red dots all over my child. The videos are there. We have the video evidence. That moment changed me. I do believe there's good people in the FBI. I think of the 13,000 some odd, 30-some-odd thousand FBI agents. I believe there's a lot of good ones in there. But where were you for those 4 years? You did things you didn't believe in. You took bad direction. You took bad orders. And you have to stand up. You people should have stood up long ago. You can't say this machine's too big. This machine was too big. This entire weight of the federal government, the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch came through me and 1,600 other Americans. And I stood here and I weathered this storm. Here we are. We turned this thing around. We didn't allow them to trample us with false narrative, the Jack Wood and Thuggery, putting their food on our throats. We stood and we weathered those storms, and here we are today. We are now going to see Donald Trump back in office. We're going to see pardons. We're going to see retribution. We're going to see actual justice take place as the United States Constitution should be upheld. And the people that committed these crimes, if they're allowed to replay the game of the patty cake politics and say, well, okay, we're going to rise above that, we're going to move on. If we play the typical Republican drumbeat, that mantra, they will snap back hard 4 years from now. This isn't about retribution. It's not about lawfare. It's about a response to this. It's about that's way awry of anything that our constitutional foundational guidelines would advocate or would point to being an actual reality. But the deep state really is comprised of the people that are right out there. There's not this secret monarchy that operates in the backdrop that I'm aware of. I don't see them. They don't have to. You have federal judges regularly avoid the law, abuse their power, operate within propriety from the digital. They don't have the freedom to do as they will. I've gone to members of the United States Congress, showed them absolute evidence, video proof of issues, showed them what judges have done, showed them things. I said this, and they said, the information is wrong, it scares me to death.
It's easy to critique. It's easy to critique someone that's conducting action. I guess what people fail to understand for the viewers at home is that what part of the retired Lieutenant Colonel Green Beret and constitutional order did Jackass Smith fail to understand? And what did he fail to understand as well as everyone on my deep state target list? And I'm going to set out to guarantee consequences to every single person on that deep state target list. I make my personal guarantee. So do you think that if I say something like that, it has a little bit more credibility than, say, somebody that's involved on the street? And if I were to show you, and you don't need to get it from me, you can get it from your boy, and you can get it who works for you guys, and you can fall into his little deep state minions that are still over at the Bureau doing illegal FISA on the bill FISA board members, right? That are all appointed by your boy John Dunn, the Supreme Court Chief Justice. Every single FISA judge.
How long does your deep state list?
So the initial list is 350, right? That your colleagues at Raw Suits reported. Yeah, 350. I would say that it's about 1,400 right now.
So, I mean, people who are on this list, they're not all big names like Oaks and some of them are kind of basically part of the citizens.
So let's focus on this.
Should they be afraid?
Jamie Raskin's wife, Sarah Raskin, they're both on the list. Jamie's on the list for his legislative duties of defrauding the government and defrauding the American people through his impeachment. Second speaker, right? And then the other, his wife Sarah was one of the 39 that illegally unmasked General Clinton to illegally spy on him during the 2016 to 2017 transition period. Sarah Raskin's her name. And they're over there in Montgomery County. Guess who also from Montgomery County? That's a close bestie of Mr. Raskin. It's the chief of the Capitol Police, Thomas Major. I've done the link analysis on all these people. These people committed absolute lawless, wanton discretions to our U.S. constitutional order, and they must be held to account. They have to be. And the way we get there is that it's not going to become a career. You're just providing me a venue to educate those critical thinkers on X, to include Elon Musk, to go ahead and hear this out and be like, oh wow, Ivan's done his research. He's done a little bit of due diligence. Oh wow, his sources are actually the best sources that you can even think of to be able to put forward this information. You might want to leave the country on or about January 20th. I think that's pretty sound advice. Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't matter where you're on the planet. We have a long reach. Your buddy, Michael Fennell, from the Metropolitan Police Department. Remember him?
Can I ask
Tourette's, no drug abuser. He was supporting his own book. I read his book. So you do the due diligence to read his book? Your credibility is kind of like lowering by confronting me and not knowing some basic information. So I'm trying to be serious here. You're trying to throw up there.
I'm just trying to get
disrespectful, I think, to your viewers.
Would you be disappointed if in trouble months or now somebody hasn't been on for treason or executed for treason?
Will I be disappointed? I think the nation will be furious.
It made me do more research and find platforms that don't censor, like X, so I could find out the truth for myself. I truly didn't think we were getting all the information we should have. So it's imperative that we don't let us, the public, make the decision as to what we want to believe.
I mean, for me, just being a younger kid, I don't think it really played that big of a role. In my eyes, at least. When the launch of AI kind of took over, it was a little bit different. But I feel like it's pretty easy for kids my age to understand
beautiful story out there.
Well, in the state of Iowa, they had that social poll that came out that was totally crooked. You know, they showed him losing Iowa by 4 points and ended up winning Iowa by 13 points. So it energized the base that, hey, if this is what it is, we're going to get out there and bust it. We're going to be doing even better work harder than ever before. So it actually worked in our favor.
But the censorship was terrible and it influenced a lot of people we know, and they bought into it completely, and it was terrible.
Don't trust the mainstream media, you gotta trust local. Go straight to the source. Don't read the reports, go straight to the source. If you want to know what was said, watch the speech.
What do you think? I think it's very, very important that we have a free media where we could share ideas and debate facts. But during COVID, we saw a lot of the freedoms be eroded. And I think today, the election of Donald Trump taking office decided that American people want to freedom back.
Mark President, first we have a list of the parties and congregations relating to the rest of the year on January 1st. I think this order will apply to approximately 15
So this is January 6th. These are hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a party. Full party. Full party or congregation? Full party. We have 6 congregations who will do the church.
Christopher Carter here. It's January 20th. I'm at the DC jail. Historic events here tonight. Donald Trump has signed the pardons one after one. He says he wants prisoners out tonight. What we see here is the supporters that have been down here for 2 years, lobbying for their loved ones, asking the president to pardon them, and even the former president involved, and now the current president is taking action. Tonight, the prisoners will be released.
Oh, it's just I know.
Supporting us and just keep encouraging it in all the prayers. I thank the Lord Jesus Christ for everything He did for us. When so many families, you know, went to the court hearings, you know, some 90-something, you know, who was conviction, right? You know, there was no absolutely no justice.
We knew this was going to happen for you, brother.
They said the families could come up there, but then they ran everybody back their homes. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, well, I feel great about what's happened. I was in 12 different jails and prisons for 1,075 days, or just shy of 3 years. A lot of time in unconstitutional and abusive conditions. One of the places being unconstitutional and abusive being this place right behind me, which I was kicked out of when I snuck out some footage of our terrible, atrocious conditions. You're not allowed to visit family for 2 years, or family visit you. Not allowed to get haircuts or shaves. You get chemically wired off if you want a haircut. Not able to leave your side. I was in solitary for 6 months. I know some people have been there longer than that. Scurvy, we got scurvy, no fruits or vegetables, absolutely atrocious conditions, all because of our political beliefs. They targeted us, and labeled us as domestic terrorists, and held us in a domestic terrorist wing. He even took our First Amendment rights away and said, you guys can't go to church in this very facility and others because we're domestic terrorists. Pre-trial and even after.
So I've been here a couple hours right now. Things are getting a little hectic in the jail. You can see the cops are making some serious moves here. A lot of family members, a lot of supporters, a lot of people in this movement have been here for years. Jail every night was involved in what we know as Freedom Corner, led by a certain few dedicated individuals and their loved ones. Right now they anticipate the release of many, many people who've been in this jail
as you said, political prisoners. They're hostages. They were politically persecuted for their beliefs. This should never have happened. And what everybody's out there, there's been people out there since day one, over a couple of days. The rain and shine, they've been out here showing support. And what it is free. Our constitutional rights can never be trampled the way they were. But this is just day one. We're going to keep it on. Now it's time for step 2, which is accountability. We're going to speak with justice. We're going to speak with FBI and the administration, get the files, go through them, find out who did what laws were broke, who coerced who, and they're going to be subject to persecution under the law. He understood that these are heroes that were standing up for their rights, that were coerced to go to the Capitol, and then they were used by the Justice Administration as an example for people not to speak out. So that they were used as an example. If you speak up, if you have another view that the administration doesn't like, we will take your freedom.
What a lot of people don't realize here about the January 6th supporters is they are constantly harassed by a contingent of Antifa that come and they really disrupt megaphones, vulgar statements, and they get arrested sometimes. They're out here tonight. I'll show you a little bit of them.
Absolutely crazy out here right now. We heard 2 people that come out, one went out in an ambulance. And the word inside is that Jake Lang is getting roughed up. It was like if they release him. So we'll see what type of condition he comes out in.
Mr. Ronnie Scanlon, I was incarcerated for 45 months. I did a year and a half in solitary confinement in that facility right there. And if you listen to the media narrative, it's white racist nationalists starting that. Storming the Capitol. It was nothing like what the media narrative said it was. And the truth's about to come out. We're all going to see the truth. It's going to take some time, but the truth's going to be disseminated. But I remember going into that right there, that driveway right there, realizing my life was going to be completely changed, entering the belly of the beast, and doing a year and a half in solitary confinement. Now, no individual should go through solitary, no human being should go through solitary confinement. We did a year and a half in solitary confinement. This is America. Why? Because we dared to question an unfair election. An election that clearly had improprieties. At the very least, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, there was improprieties in that election. And because we dared to speak truth to power, they put us through a torturous, it's a very, very terrible position. What's going on?
This is what freedom looks like. Guys, come here. This is what freedom looks like. This is what we fight for. This is what we stood in the Capitol for.
Yeah, that's right, brother.
I said, that sounds like my son's voice. All right, now you can cry. You couldn't cry down there before. Now you can cry. Good job. This man stood by himself. He has fought. He has come against these evil people, and he has never given up. Where's Rachel at? Where's Rachel? She's we feel amazing. This is what we Americans all about. Get over here, sir. This woman right here, my fiance, down here, has stood by my side with my father. These are the people that make America great. This is what we fought for. Rachel's a Jan 6er too. She stormed the Capitol for freedom and justice too, and was pardoned yesterday by our lovely President Trump, guys. We are witnessing an indelible moment in American history where freedom is finally able to reign again, where we don't have to be sad about and hiding in corners for exercising our rights, where we're no longer being censored on social media left and right, where there are two genders again, where men are not 1 mile away from the United States Capitol, lying in solitary confinement for 900 days. American people are relieved. This institutional nightmare, this weapon is
organization. These institutions that have crumbled are now being restored. Faith and trust and hope are back in America. We are back, baby! We are back, baby!
All right, we've been out here all night waiting for these people to get released. It's funny who you meet out here. This is Stuart Rhodes, one of the major players in this historical event, originally sentenced, I believe, for seditious conspiracy.
One of the alleged major players.
Right, well, yeah, right. One figure, historical figure. How does it feel to be out here now from where you were yesterday?
Well, my brother and I, we were talking, my boys and I were talking, and one thing that we could look and see when I got to the town, so there's some big sections in there. It was weird being on the outside of the community for a change. We had the other day, we had that place, all sorts of big.
How do you feel if they're not out right now and you're here waiting?
It's upsetting that. They should have been out last night, and I'm not sure why they're not even released. It's what they wanted to do. I got a lot of time myself. Yes, yeah, I'm
What would you like to say to the mainstream media?
propaganda arm of deep state. It's very much like Obama's mentioned before, the Ministry of Truth is where all the lies are started. And we were the Ministry of Law, reporting the subject of mine. I was the subject of mine for over a year. A lot of the reaction the same way. And that's been the greatest spirit for which you didn't work out. We didn't work out on those things.
And you said that since the beginning, you're upset with some of these people that took these plea deals to look where we're sure.
Yeah, and here's how I feel about that. That's not my honor. They don't. We lost their honor. You know, I'm sorry for it. As a Christian, of course, I'm compelled to give them that passion for it. But what I want them to do is to make it right now. Prove the truth about how they were forced into a plea bargain to accept, to probably did not commit, to agree to lie. They're called testifying. To agree to their falsehoods and somebody else. I want them to not tell the truth about that. And then the whistle on the prosecutors who support perjury and commit conspiracy to commit perjury. And they should prosecute. Two, the Constitution says that the state legislature has the power to decide how the workers are selected. They will decide and that's what they elect. And so they have state laws. State laws like elections. But state laws were made to prevent cheating and to prevent fraud. And so you violate those state laws, A, you're violating the Constitution if you're not doing what the Constitution says. If you're having a judge or an executive branch elected official change the rules, which means violate state law, you're not changing the random selection of the legislation.
18-year sentence, you said to me. The only way I'm getting out of jail is a conservative president.
President Trump is back then.
That was President Trump, and here we are today. What would you say?
Well, I think, as he said, I believe that God's hand was on him, saved his life, and God's hand on his country. And for the grace of God that he was saved, that he did his job now and saved his country. And he also saved us.
You couldn't talk about, anything political. None of them make sense. I was like hunkered down waiting for the last 4 years, especially when that guy came to my house. The guy was a police officer. We didn't know him. We were behind everything, and I'm sitting there nervous, wondering if, I'm going to get arrested for just trespassing because they're at my house. And then I didn't look until 2 years after. I'll share this video. I got images of guys dressed up, yelling. They're definitely either confidential informants or Antifa.
It absolutely is garbage.
They've known for a year that Donald Trump's going to do this, and he's been repeating that claim for months and months and months. If anybody should have been prepared to do something like this, it's the DC gulag. They should have been the first to let the hostages go. Now they're going to be the last, but again, we shouldn't be surprised. This is what they do. They're taking the opportunity to twist the knife one last time in the hearts and minds of the American people before they have to let go of it forever. So I did 3.5 years. I was first in Allegheny County Jail, then I was taken here, then I went to Northern Neck for 13 months, then Lewisburg. Then from Lewisburg I was brought back here to get sentenced. Then from here, I was taken to the Philadelphia detention center. But once I was done with Philly, then I was taken to Loretto, and from Loretto, I was brought to the Halfway House in Pittsburgh, where I was released from last night. And so if I was released from a halfway house at 11:45 p.m. last night, there's no reason why those men shouldn't have also been released. This is on this jail completely. The jail is guilty.
So I've been here for 3 days right now. This is pretty much winding down. There's 10 to 15 prisoners left in the jail behind me. There's various supporters of the J6 movement that have been here since day one. Like Mickey Whithoff is here, Ashley Babbitt's mother, and she's been an instrumental part of this movement for over 2.5 years now. And this is the final moments of what was Freedom Corner as these J6 supporters, patriots, family members, spouses, loved ones gather to see the release. But ironically, they're not getting released because the DC government seems to be ignoring the White House's orders to release these prisoners. Lawmakers have been here in the last few days along with U.S. Marshals. Nothing is resolved. If there's any type of indication of what's going on, you can see behind me, I think this way, the flags are flying at half-staff in direct violation of a presidential order. So that should give you an idea of the culture in this organization behind me here.
I'm feeling frustrated that these guys inside are dragging their feet and everybody else in the system is out, but in true DC form, these guys are making people suffer as long as they possibly can. Well, I've made some lifelong friendships, and these people truly that we spend every night with out here on the corner really become your family. The frustration is mainstream media showed no interest in what happened to these men until President Trump got involved, and then some of them are here just to show us in a bad light, and some of us are here because it's finally safe to talk about it. But my idea of true journalism is to not be on the bandwagon, is to be in front of the bandwagon. These men went to exercise their First Amendment right and were attacked by the police, and the Biden regime has done everything to censor and sweep this incident under the rug, including the corruption within the DC government, the DOJ, Matthew Graves, Merrick Garland, and in my opinion, Christopher Wray. Just these court systems. These men go in there and they're very much judged on the day about their actions of the day. And it's guilty. You know, they take pride in all these plea deals when it should be not pride, it should be the government's shame that they pressure these men into taking horrific deals. Well, actually, when we first got here, we talked about vaccines or stolen elections, we were immediately booted off of our YouTube live stream. But now we are allowed to talk about the forced vaccination. And we do talk about a stolen election, and we're having less booting. But yeah, in the beginning it was really bad. And people, as you know, people were deplatformed from their banks, from their, everything from social media and credit cards, banks, Airbnbs, all that. I plan on going home at the end of February because, these men are going to go home, go back to their families, and we've done 905 days today. It would be of our vigil. And if there's nobody inside, call outside, there's no reason to be here. So my plan is to go back to San Diego, and beyond that, I have no plan. I'm winging it.
Solitary confinement.
God, when you were on trial here in DC, did you ever think you were going to get a fair trial?
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Obvious is fair. You're not getting a fair trial here, we know that are politically accurate.
Nicole, how do you feel at this moment?
No, I'm elated. I'm elated on so many levels. This has been a hard fight. Mickey Whithoff has stood by us and all the J6 community, and and she's been such a warrior, and it makes me proud to be out here making sure that everybody gets out. No man left behind, and that's a fact. I understand that things happened that day, but due process violations absolutely did happen, and we need a real investigation. And so all I can say is I feel happy
Since you've been involved with this, you've learned quite a lot about the court system. What do you think about the U.S. federal court system?
Well, I think it needs to be overhauled all the way around. They force people into pleas. It's real intimidation.
Stop taking plea deals, America.
Yeah.
This day, starting today, America, stop taking plea deals. You're making deals with the devil. You're making the needed tyranny that is scaring Americans into these plea deals. You're screwing us out of our constitutional Sixth Amendment right to trial and a jury. You're taking plea deals. It's on you. Stop doing it.
How long, Bill?
How long were you in there for?
I don't remember. It feels like forever.
What was the treatment with the guards in there like?
Some were good, most were bad. It wasn't really the guards. It wasn't really the guards. It was the lack of medical care. I have spinal cord injuries, and if it wasn't for people outside that called in for help, I mean, I would probably be paralyzed.
What are you going to do with your life now moving forward?
Back to my family. Do what I was doing before.
Any message for President Trump on the pardon?
I thank you for that. And hopefully the real news of what happened that day comes out, the truth comes out.
I think it's 905 days. This is supposed to be the final night of Freedom Corner. What we're hearing now is temperatures, health vitals are being monitored, which means in the ultimate kind of FU move at the last moment, they might be transferring these final 4 prisoners. So right at the last moment, they're taking their temperatures, they're probably going to move them to make one last snafu for the last remaining J6 prisoners. The supporters, the family members, the loved ones, the people that were here in J6 are here tonight. They're not leaving. No man left behind is their motto. We're here to see what happens.
All the Christians are in the party. You know when you stand in the faith to the certain moment, it's just all good. If you see what's happening in one of these places, I mean, every Christian I've talked to, they said this is the darkest place I've ever been in my life, and they said I'm never coming back. And it's got so much rich history, and God's given us such a great country. No, I'm crazy, but I am crazy for Jesus. And I don't care what I look like. Jesus, when he walked on the earth, they weren't attracted to him by his beauty. He was a very humble, looking man. And the one who couldn't deliver us from the people, Lord, we're calling on your name. Lord, we say we're in trouble, we're calling on your name. Lord, I thought this was going to deliver us. Lord, I just thank you. Lord, if you have ready to have hope, Lord, I thank you for this. When you don't do it, I thank you. That was forward, they were heading 103 stars one day into Jerusalem. And so you know that God said, we couldn't imagine, and no servant said, there's a part of home here. And then preachers come out and say, actually, Esther's not really good for us. No, Esther's not her party. Esther's not her party, she's hers. And one day we're going to be home. This guy, John, started better than home. Years. We want to work in the middle of not just every day. We want to work enough. That's right. One more future right now. We're in the battle of our lives. And that's what I've been trying the whole 4 years. We're struggling with people in the Holy Spirit. So, Father, we thank you that we have a God with so much shoulders. Jesus, to deliver us. We just thank you and praise you that we're not. Our prayer, Lord, is for that you're a God that's there to stand. Lord, we have a living God. Father, we don't bow. We don't serve a good God. We don't serve idols that don't hear us. Father, we know our prayers will be heard. Father, we love you and praise you. In Jesus' name.
My name is James Grant, and I'm from North Carolina. I strongly felt the election was stolen. We have affidavits, something called Benford's Law, which is basically most real numbers in any real set of data start with a 1. the election date didn't fit that. I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, the election was stolen. We wanted an audit, and I took the LSAT about 10 days after January 6th, and I actually had scholarships to Washington and Lee, near-full scholarships to Washington and Lee law school there, and the University of Alabama School of Law, and I never showed up. I was whisked off to jail, and that's some of the prices I paid for this. I did what I felt was right. I felt an obligation to go. I didn't even particularly want to go. I just felt like it was something I had to do. These people deserve pardons. These are people without criminal records that were given years-long sentences. I was a law student. I pushed a fence that didn't touch anyone, and I was charged with assault with a deadly weapon for it, and spent 32 months in jail for it in horrible conditions. But to be honest, when Joe Biden pardoned his son, I was happy because I figured we're definitely getting one now. Well, I would really like to get back into law school. I was actually at the Capitol today, and I was talking to and just trying to blanket senators and congressmen from Alabama. Just hoping someone could put a good word in for me. But I'm going to be applying to a lot of law schools, and I'm hoping to reclaim that and get redemption.
My name's Gregory Purdy. So I went there and voiced my opinion about the election that we had. I believe that there were major problems and constitutional issues, and I didn't believe the hype about 20 to 30 different locations having broken pipes. I didn't believe that somebody could get 20 million votes in 3 o'clock in the morning at the heat of the night. You look at the graph, it's going up like that, and I wanted on my voice heard. There needed to be an investigation, so we went there to peacefully protest. Well, me and my uncle, who's beside me right here, we told police officers we love them, we're peaceful, we don't want to hurt you, and we have that video, and we said, listen, we're going to move past you because we want to go to an area where our voice can be heard. When we go past you, we're not going to hurt you. And when we ran past them, they tackled me, and they charged me with assault on a police officer, even though they tackled me and assaulted me. I just got out yesterday. I did 7.5 months. Absolutely treacherous. I don't say this to complain, but I say this so we can have the problems other people in there are dealing with. We know by the world. They're torturous conditions. It's inhumane. I haven't been outside for months. Rat feces in my food almost every single day. Guards retaliating and coming in and sending people in to start fights and doing anything they can to make your life horrible. We just heard a story from someone. They had a guard threatening to plant a knife in his cell illegally. I mean, the stories are just endless, and we have to change our justice system. We need justice reform immediately. And that's what I'm hoping is the next step for this administration, which we believe will happen.
My name is Robert Turner, also known as Uncle Bobby. Like that. You know what? We went there. We knew something was wrong. Common sense. We knew they cheated. We knew the election was stolen. It was out there. We knew. So we went there to voice our opinions, to let them know that we needed something. We needed these votes counted again. We needed something, our voices that we heard to know what happened.
Pardons for the J6 committee? What's that mean? You're accepting something that you're guilty of. So what are you guilty of? You're guilty of lying and putting these people behind jail, behind bars, without their family, losing their job, losing their home, losing their cars, everything. And I hate the fact that these elected officials think they can get away with this crap.
America healthy, America wealthy, and Americans first. That's right. Americans first.
Since day one, man. When they told me on that day, January 6th, that they stormed the Capitol, I said, good. Let's go, man. Take out
USA! 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 Woo!
Sure. Well, thank you guys so much. What do you guys think?
Loved it.
I really appreciate it. I have to tell you, when I watch it, I think of so many other things, and there was a few little technical things, but these type of things happen, and you're really our first test audience. And a lot of you were there. Gary was in it. He's always great because he just right to the point. So if you guys want to come up here and ask me a question, I'd love to hear from you. You can just come right up, and I'll answer anything about the project and what I know about January 6th. Would you like? So who wants to go first?
I do.
Mr. Joe the Box. Here he is. All right. Yep, he can step right up. He's never shy.
I am very shy.
Did you like the feature?
I was blown away. I had, I didn't know the faces. I heard the names. I heard the people talking when I was ever down there on the corner. And they would make the phone call, they would make the roll call, and you heard the voices. But I never really saw the faces. The one that I really was looking forward to seeing me, I was not able to get down over here, at least, but John and Gary were down there making the rounds. They didn't even put a heater down there. It was so cold that one night. And I was down there on the January 6th anniversary. I saw you in that snowstorm that came over and stopped Mickey from even getting there. She was stuck in, Oklahoma or something like that with the storm. But my question and concern is this, Chris. You've really built it up. You brought it to everybody's attention, and we kind of see. Will you continue your work when they uncover the lies? Will you continue your work to bring out the truth and show the American people and get out of the dark that we're in?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I look at so many of the faces here today, and really, you could do what would be the aftermath. People who have these felony convictions on their record that shouldn't. People that have lost everything because they've spent every last penny they had. People whose families have left them because of what they believe in politically. All this has happened. So yeah, I really have thought about it, because that was just like a quick, like a sort of Cliff Notes version. Remember Cliff Notes? There's really like different chapters that you could dive into with every single one of these networks and what they've done, but also the people and how they're rebuilding their life. We know about the recovery project that Jenny Cutt and Gary are doing, Texas Recovery Ministries. It's going to be amazing. What happened is this J6 movement has evolved into really an American grassroots movement, and that's what we want to do. We don't want to give our money to the federal government to help us. We want to give it to our community charities.
Well, unfortunately, the federal government takes our money in the form of taxes, and they were using it and giving it to their, all of their NGOs that were doing the ugly work for them. The one other thing I want to say, and I'd be more than happy to pass this mic to anybody in the crowd like Sue that may have a question. Just kidding, Sue. The continuation, all right, so here's one of the things I want to try and help you if I can, Chris. When you talk to some of the people, the one that really got me in my heart was Guy Reffitt. Guy Reffitt, who, if I was Guy Reffitt, I would be so angry. And this man came out so calm. The point that I want to make in the question that I want to bring to you is there was so much love for God in there, so much faith for God. When this guy Reffitt went through it, he was in locked up in a box and in and out, and his family, he got in trouble because his son was indoctrinated to the college that he went to. And his teacher is the one that set him up. And when he went to trial, his son even testified against his own father.
Yeah, that's one of the tougher situations. I covered Guy Reffitt's trial. He was sentenced to 7 years. And, the tragedy with the family and what's happened there, I know that you could look at it that way and say, yeah, this is a family that's really paid the price for this event. But there's also the flip side of that coin, and her name is Nicole Reffitt. Yeah. And that is kind of like a force to be reckoned with. So Guy Reffitt, he really got himself a good woman there. I mean, mean, Nicole Refton, for all intents and purposes, she turned herself into a legit court reporter. There was never a trial that I was at 333 Constitution Avenue where she wasn't there. You know, there were others too, like Karen Castaneda, who were around a lot when a lot of these journalists just weren't around to cover the story.
Well, this is very interesting with Guy, and I told you that I would be so angry, and I thought about that. And last night, when we watched the Road Home Ministries last night with Jenny, when she came up here, one of the things that she had said to everybody that was going to happen, that she had worked very hard to forgive the government. And I thought about that for a few minutes, and I really don't think that's going to happen. My faith leaders that are here with me continue to remind me how forgiveness is going to, how that is so important, and forgiveness will bring you to God. And I want to just make a comment about Guy Refton, who absolutely forgives his son for what he did. Very hard. So, Chris, one more thing for you. Are you finding that the people are angry, or are you finding that the prisoners are forgiven?
That's a pretty good question. Certain people, they have an ability to kind of let go of the anger a little bit easier than others. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but it comes in waves.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, okay, I can deal with this, and then, but no, we can't. You know, and so it's sort of, how do we negotiate that? Because no doubt people in this movement have PTSD. You didn't even have to be there that day to be in the orbit of someone that this was happening to. And then having the means to defend yourself, you know, is another aspect. They had public defenders in Washington that were purposely presenting awful deals to people, saying that they were going to help them, and next, throw away the key. Great, you know, it's not really, the legal system needs big time changes, and we know that from what they were saying about the plea deals in the end there, and also the presumption of innocence. You know, when you really get involved with the system and you make the system prove you guilty with a jury, they make you pay for that. They see that as taking the court's time, and how dare you exercise your right to a jury trial. That is what they don't want. Now in Washington, that's like LeBron James showing up to your high school basketball team. Who do you think's gonna win? He is, you know, 90% of Washington voted for Obama. So it's a set-up jury. They have to figure out some type of staggered system in case anything like this ever happens again. These people should be tried in their hometowns, not the town of Washington, D.C.
Correct.
One of the other big things that came out, in my opinion, was the conditions of the jail. The conditions that the prisoners that I know that come through here, and some of the things that they have brought out. Your film had brought it out through their interviews from you. We do a January 6th prison reform show out of here, Chris, that has Sarah McAbee, her husband Colt McAbee was, I think, on the West Terrace at the time, and Shane Jenkins also at the West Terrace. And in here, in our own warehouse here, we have Tommy Tatum that was there right on the terrace. So the conditions of the jails we brought out, maybe you can continue down that road and bring some of the J6s and the troops that they've had. What are your thoughts on the conditions?
Well, it's basically like this. You've seen the footage from the Alligator Alcatraz. I think a lot of people in the January 6th community will wish that they were sent to the Alligator Alcatraz instead of the DC Gulag or whatever. And a lot of people don't realize this. In these jails, like Rikers Island, I had a situation like this happen to me. I had an overzealous prosecutor after me. She found out that I was covering OAN in New York City. She didn't like that very much, right? She said, well, we think that you should spend some time in Rikers Island for some BS she made up. Now, when you actually get a qualified attorney on that, that doesn't happen. That's $10,000 later. And they say, hey, oh, well, you know, you might have been innocent, but BLM runs that prison. That's their people. They are the prison guards. So it's a double-edged sword. You think you're getting a person that's going to like just slam the door and throw you some food. No. What they're going to do is open the door and walk away while their cousin comes in. And they said, no matter what, you cannot ever be there. Just like the DC Gulag was completely like that. It's not really a safe place even when you're in there. So we need a lot of prison reform. I mean, it's a huge thing. They need to address it. Just like Brandon Fellows said, they didn't have vitamins, they got scurvy. You know, don't they say 3 hots in a cot? Or what is that, the Marines?
No, that's what Mickey Wickoff loved that one because she would say, whatever you do, don't get arrested on a Friday. You don't want to spend a weekend in jail.
Yeah.
But it is a nice place to be with 3 hots in a cot because they do feed you. Just one more note on this also, the prison reform situation. I know one of the games that they played was taking the J6 prisoners and bouncing them around from jail to jail. And a great friend here at the America First Wherehouse is Sarah Carpenter. Sarah Carpenter is a J6er that spent, I think, 3 years, I don't know, Sue, or at least that. She was bounced around from jail to jail, a woman, I know what women are, and also a New York City police officer at the time of 9/11. And she was downtown in 9/11 many years ago and was affected by that, like you would believe, felt the need to be there on January 6th. Well, she was tossed from jail to jail to jail. And there's something to be said about that. She lost all consciousness of dates and times of where she was. It was really horrific. And then to see her come out and to be the lady that she is and the God-fearing woman that she is. And did you know this, Chris? She was the weapons that she used was a rosary, a little Jesus doll, and a tambourine.
What was happening to her was actually quite common. It's called diesel therapy. So when you start to get comfortable and your lawyers know where you are, and your family knows where you are, you get moved. So you never have the ability to really, talk with your lawyers, have people maybe send you money from your family. None of that. They move you. It's one of the punishments, diesel therapy. I don't know if I included it in the movie. I thought I did, but maybe I'll have to go back and put that in.
I do know I heard you talking about, and that's what made me think a lot about Sarah. Now, I don't have to sit up here and continue to talk about it because I am a J6 advocate, as you know, and I love the Freedom Corner down there. I went down there many times I can. But there are some people that are actually there. Tommy Taylor, would you like to come up and say a few things and maybe have a question?
Yeah, sure, bring him up.
All right, come on up, Tommy.
How are you?
So Chris, I didn't tell you this. Right. So I didn't watch it.
Oh, wow.
And so that's one.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, I'm always here.
Rosé Boy, this is the man who's kept the name alive.
And Chris, you did so I made friends with Chris early on, I'm forgetting now. And Chris grew up in DC. He knew what it was like to be haunted by a T-front. So that's why I don't really like it a lot. And he just thought about, and then I didn't write when Paul was having to kind of navigate Capitol Hill. So I always liked you guys first.
Wow, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
As far as the documentary, like you said, there's so much stuff that you can put in it. And I felt I am getting lots of J6ers who are 6 months out of jail. They've looked at everything for themselves, and now they're really wanting to go to what we said.
Yeah, you can hit me up at Carter Rocks 1. It's like anything. Money, it's never going to make you happy, but it makes things easier.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of these people are.
Well, I actually
They
wrote
need money.
there's a big, huge discussion about all that, obviously. And I think that, I don't think someone's going to do it because you're going to have the same last name, your kids are going to have your same last name 30 years from now. And these Democrats will wait to terrorize your family, I promise you, because they can't beat Trump, but they'll give it a chance, but they can take it out in months. So I wrote this called the Rosenwald Act, and you look at us, J6ers, federal protection, as if they were the civil rights community. So that's kind of
A little extra added protection you haven't known being targeted. That could work out nicely.
So,
All right, you good?
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, anybody else? Don.
Don the Marine. Come
Here
on.
you go, Don. Don't fall down there. What did you think?
I thought this was excellent, Chris.
Great.
And my question is to you,
about the fake news people out there who are giving fake information. How do you think this is going to change? How are you guys going to change them to give them the fact, get the facts out?
Right. Well, I appreciate you asking that. So a lot of people out there, they say, how do you listen to this person? What type of street cred do they have? Well, I'm a 4-time Peabody award-winning journalist. A lot of people don't know this. I used to work at CNN. Before they lost their minds, I left. Right? Yeah. And I can tell you this, then since OAN, Real America's Voice, I'm completely on my own right now. But as far as your question goes with the media, I made this because people need to see really what they've done, how they've affected our lives. And really, I mean, I hate to say it because everybody says they need to be held accountable, but they need to be punished.
Yes, my idea of punishing these people is not doing it like you said in the Capitol, bring them to not their towns either, because they probably got judges who are right in hands with them.
Oh yeah, you don't really have a fair shot.
They don't have a fair shot, and I know how the court system works. It's a big bag, and they're corrupt.
Right. Well, you know, here's the situation. When the audience leaves the networks, that's how you get them, because they lose their money. And let's face it, if you really want to hurt somebody, you hit it in their pockets. You leave that, the audience leaves, and then they say, oh, look, you know, Colbert, he's only losing $40 million a year to have the same predictably not funny, dumb humor thrown at us, right? I mean, so many people have talked about it, but I think that they really have just begun to feel the effects of this. Like right now, this merger with CBS, $36 million, that'll happen because Trump said it. Because you get rid of that guy. Because he's annoying, he's not even handsome. You know what I mean? If he was just that dumb and it was like Ben Affleck, the women could handle it while they were falling asleep. But he's not even good looking, right? So Trump says get rid of him. Remember though, when Fox News was sued by Dominion, this happened to them as well. Massive settlement, $700 million, the biggest in the history of the media, right? And they also said, Tucker Carlson, gone. They'll take one big scalp, you know, usually that happens. So I think we're on the way to seeing it. You know, networks like Real America's Voice, OAN, what you guys are doing here at the America's First Wherehouse is amazing. They need more events like this and people like you coming. So thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Anybody else? Joe Box coming back up. One more.
Joe Box is directing traffic.
Here you go. This is a free-flowing format here. I've got you one right here. So what is your name? Kathleen Lyons. Step right up here. Okay. So what was your question?
So I am a retired correction officer for 17 years.
So I never really know what I'm talking about, huh? So that situation in some of these jails, it's not the inmates. It's what the guards let the other inmates do.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't see something. And then what did you think about diesel therapy? Was that legitimate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Once you start to see someone get too comfortable, no, that's not what this is.
Yeah. So I worked at Nassau County Jail.
Okay.
And Nassau County Jail is breaking the law for 60-some years because their sheriff is appointed, not elected.
Interesting.
So we're trying to work on that right now.
Yeah, well, I know that some of these local sheriffs are extremely connected politically, you know?
Yeah, it's just insane. And I spoke to a lot of the General Chicks guys at CPAC, and like the conditions of the DC jail, DC isn't particularly in our country, so that's the difference. So all the other jails around the country that were doing these horrible things, if we brought food to the floor and it wasn't per temperature,
trash.
No. Well, the inmates all fought, but we got in trouble. So anything that happened to you guys outside of DC is so wrong. We had a guy die in jail the officers beat him up. This was before I got there. This was in the 90s, late 90s. They beat him up and he died. He was a heroin addict for like 30 years, had a spleen 3 times or 5 times the size of normal spleen, so he died. The feds came in. Those guys went away for 25 years. The feds came in and destroyed the place. We were afraid to do anything at all in 2000. I started in 99. And they were all over us. We would go out to the bars after work in the first year I was there, and everybody thought there were undercover feds all over the place. So everybody was afraid to even talk. And they thought I was a fed, an undercover fed, because I was a girl coming into jail. And it was so beyond horrible how they came into our jail and made us do everything by the book, that when I hear these guys around the country, and they did everything to them in our country against the law, it just, I get crazy.
Well, I have a question for you then.
Okay.
You know, right now, one of the things that's revolutionized police work are these body cams. You know, you have to wear them on the beat. Something happens, it's suspect on you. Why wasn't the camera running?
Right.
Prison guards and correctional officers maybe should have this type of requirement, you know, where things are recorded.
Right. Well, in visiting, they were supposed to be updoing the camera system in the visiting room.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, they want as least on us as possible. So to carry a camera, I don't know how that would go in the jail.
I actually have a second documentary in the works right now, and I've been going to a minimum security women's prison, 700 women in Alderson, West Virginia. I have a doctor who has been ensnared in this opioid crisis, and she was a small town doctor, and she's sentenced to 10 years at 70. So I've been taking her husband, who's 88, out to the jail 5 hours one way to see his wife. And he's in a walker. And we're staying there, and it's like, he's sneaking in toilet paper. And I'm like, what?
In regular jail?
Yeah, they don't have paper products in women's prison. It's minimum security. And then even in the, you know, visiting area, it's all just like chips and candy and stuff. And it's just, it's really, you can end up far worse. You know, I mean, people say, you know, you don't think things are bad. Well, it can always get worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know how they got treated so badly.
Well, thanks for being a corrections officer. That's a hard job.
Yeah, it's tough.
Wow.
I got beat up a bunch of times.
You probably could kick some serious butt, huh?
I try.
All
Thank
right.
you for all you're doing.
Thank
It
you.
is great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. I didn't know I was going to have someone who knows the system. All right, guys, we got one more coming up here. Two. All right, here we go. Yeah, from the Patriots, Angie, how are you? I was on your show the other day. What did you think of the movie?
I loved it. I loved
Thanks.
it. Thank you for making it. Thank you for making it. I wanted to talk a second about the big tech.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Because it was a big part of the film. Even though Trump signed executive orders regarding censorship, it's still ongoing. We're experiencing it here from the warehouse, through our podcast, through, you know, going from a larger audience, all of a sudden it's shrunk down, we're shadow banned, and it's going to take grassroots efforts, independent films, independent people doing their part, sharing things, sending it to your friends, sending it to groups, you know, anywhere you can send it to, share it. We say it all the time, like it and share it, because that helps break the algorithms that we're oppressed by. So it's still ongoing now. It's
a big problem. These settlements have been historic, and if you notice, the media is not talking about it because it's basically a failing grade on themselves. You know, right now there's a big problem with CNN.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to sell it. No one wants to buy it. They're like, why are we going to take this thing that's like so expensive that has no audience? So they're all sitting there going like, but I have kids in private school, and I have a Tesla. Like, help me.
Yeah, so what I would say is that, you know, anytime that you see something that reaches you, that touches you, is important to you, do what you can to help, you know, to share it out, to teach other people. There's going to be a point in time where there are going to be a lot of people that are experiencing things in their minds seeing what's going on, that they're not gonna know how to cope with. Literally, they won't know how to cope with. And it's gonna be up to us, those that do know, and have been in this fight for a long time now, to help expand their knowledge and let them see what, what the truth is. So that's my suggestion. We can't rely on Facebook, on Instagram, it has to be person to person. We have to be people and communicate with each other. That's how it's gonna happen.
Amazing. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so
Right
much.
here. That is a good shot.
He likes
Here
his
you
own
are.
microphone.
So what did you think?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. Obviously eye-opening, and one of the things I recognize when President Trump gave the pardon, it was an easy pardon because of the lack of due process that was given to the J6ers. So my question is, I have a couple questions actually. Is there litigation? Can there be litigation for the J6ers against the federal government? Will they be able to sue the federal government for lack of due process? Is that a possibility?
This is a great question, okay? One of the hardest things in the world to do is sue the federal government. It's like you can be angry with God, and I don't care. The government's kind of like that. They have unlimited time and resources. Now, what's interesting though, I think Jenny might have brought it to my attention. I've never heard anyone argue the case that because the District of Columbia is actually a territory, not a state, that none of this is relevant here, and there should be no courts here. Because if it's not a state, the people don't have representation, then why do they have the right to speak in the court? So there's all these things that nobody kind of thought about with that, because the scope of it is so big. One of the things that's interesting is where I'm from. I'm actually a native Washingtonian. Washington, D.C. absolutely can never become a state, because once it does, immediately it automatically becomes a super state. It supersedes all other states with location, money, power, corruption, influence. That's why D.C. should never be a state. It is supposed to be a territory. And I'm sorry, if you want to live downtown and all that, go do it. Because you know who owns your house? The government does. You don't even own your house in downtown D.C. proper. They just give you a right to it. So we'll get back to that in a second. So that's a great question. I think there's so much going on with that what they really need to do is reconvene a J6 committee for real, right? With rolling coverage from the networks, let the Democrats talk. Actually, let them just come and not show up, because it's what they'll do. You can have people trying to debate it, show the empty seats. They don't care about you. That's what it is.
So kind of like where you were going with this is, there's deep state, right, that kind of orchestrated this entire thing. We know there were FBI, undercover FBI in the crowd, starting what we believe started a lot of what was going on. What I'm curious about, are you hearing anything about is Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, are the good people who are now in charge of government investigating themselves in the FBI? And will we see prosecution? One of the things, listen, I'm a Christian, man, one of the things that we've been praying for is exposure of the truth. Are we going to see real exposure, real arrest of what we've been praying for? Because we know there's a darkness within our government. What do you know about what's going on?
Well, I think the first step is the task force, right? This whole thing that they've created now to look at all this stuff going back with, Brennan, Clapper, Comey. These people have done a major injustice. Now, we all know about the auto pen, and all this is going to come out in the wash. But weren't we taught in, high school growing up, don't forge the teacher's signature on your report card? You think we would have learned these things when we were children, but it's manifested itself to the highest levels with zero accountability. He didn't even know what he was signing, right? So none of this stuff holds true. None of it. It's going to be interesting to see, because there really needs to be separate investigations, but because of the bad luck with special counsels, they hate that word, because everything that we go back to here, I had dinner with some people in New York one night. It was one of these New York style at the table where you feel like you're in a movie, and stand up and what do you think? And they said, what do you think about what's going on with Trump and the investigations? And I said, it all goes back to Jeff Sessions. He was the acting attorney general that let this stuff get out of control. They've learned from their mistakes now. It's not leaving the house. Because once it does, then all CNN's going to do is talk about it for the next 3 years. You know? And here we are, back at the magic show.
And the last thing I want to say is, listen, we saw there was about 1,500 people who were put in jail. Now look, if we're honest with ourselves, there may have been some people who are honestly guilty of doing some things they shouldn't have done. But I think we know beyond a shadow of a doubt the vast majority of these people were innocent. It's complete miscarriage of justice. And they were improperly prosecuted inside those jails, and you've covered it greatly, the evil that was done to these people. But you know what, guys, I don't know if you noticed, there was a common thing that kept most of these people going, and it was a complete belief in Jesus, and that Jesus was sustaining them. And I just want to say to you guys, listen, those people were going through some really hard things, and it was God that was sustaining them. And you know what? Sometimes we go through some things in our life that we can't control, and things that are really hard for us to deal with. And I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart, and I know Joe believes this as well, and you see this big cross we have up here. The America First Wherehouse stands for Christ first, okay? And if you're going through anything, you know, you can come to us. You can go to Joe, you can go to me, you can go to my wife Amanda up there. And just so you know that there is hope. And there's hope in Christ, because a lot of those guys went into those jails without Christ not having any hope at all. But you know what? They found Jesus inside that jail that gave them hope. And they had no idea if they were going to spend the next 20 years in jail. But they were okay with it because they had Christ in their life. I just want to thank you for highlighting that in the film. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really wanted to bring the religious aspect of it in, because let's face it, you know, everybody goes through a lot in life. And, you know, happiness is kind of an inside job, but God will always be there for you. It's the only one. So, Joe, thank you so much for having me, buddy. Great question. Your audience is smart.
Yes, we are very informed. And just a quick shout out and thanks to Mickey Whithoff.
Yeah,
Mom,
wherever you are, Mickey.
Wherever you are, here. We love her, we love you, thank you very much. Chris Carter, you're a true journalist and a true gentleman.
Thank you. Everybody watching online, everybody coming in, thank you so much. Appreciate it. AmericaInTheDark.net. Get it to Trump. Thanks.
All right, guys, let's hear it for Chris one more time. Thank you, Chris. Let me know. So if you guys want to head out there after this event, thank you guys for coming. And tune in. And Liberty Speaks, that Joe was talking about the prison reform, airs Wednesdays on our platforms at 4 p.m.
I love you guys. I love you all. God bless.
Light of what's going on.
Pack up here and I'm going to drive home.
Tune into that.
I love you guys.
Shows, and thank you for being here.
Stay united.